Hello friends, it's Sema. Welcome back. We've somehow made it to the end of 2025. I don't know how, I can't speak for anyone else, but this was an incredibly tumultuous year for me. I think I spent a lot of the year in my head, which is not great, but you know, it is what it is. And I spent a lot of the time consuming media, whether that was movies or books. So today we are going to be going through the 54 books that I read this year, ranked from worst to best. So let's just get into it. I feel like I need to preface this by saying this was so hard for me, like actually ranking them, because I feel like I know the books I liked, I know the books I didn't like, I know the books that are in the middle, but I don't know exactly where each one goes, you know? Like, I think my top 10, it was so hard to put it in order. I still don't know how confident I am in it, but let's just start it off. Least favorite book. 53rd on our list is Dune Messiah, and then 52nd is Dune. I just, you know, I love these movies. I saw both Dune movies in theaters when they came out. I'm not much of a sci-fi person, but I loved that movie going experience. I mean, they're fucking awesome movies, right? So I thought that meant that I like the story. I do not. It's so boring. And I started the third book and then I was like, no, I can't. 51 is Happily Ever After, which is kind of like a novella of the Selection series. It's basically different parts of the story from different characters' POVs. This isn't bad. I mean, I loved the Selection when I was in middle school, so the writing was obviously a little aged for me. I read it as part of a reading challenge on the Story Graph. So yeah, it like wasn't anything special. It's pretty much like the exact same plot of like what I read before, just from the POV of a different character. And I'm not big on POV changes, so it's not surprising that this is so low on my list. 50th is Big Swiss. This was like one of the first audiobooks I listened to during the year. It's about this woman who is a transcriptionist for a sex therapist, and she like becomes obsessed with one of the clients and then meets her and kind of goes into like their, you know, story together after they meet. I don't know, it's a little weird. Like I said, it was one of the first books I read, or first audiobooks I listened to this year, and I don't remember much about it, honestly. So 39 on the list is The Spell Shop. This was, I think, the one and only book I read with my book club this year. We're really lacking. It's like a cozy fantasy, which is not a genre I delve into too much, but it was fun, you know? It was, again, like cozy, low stakes, nothing really happened. I think it is a series. I don't know how many books are in it, but I know the story does go on. So I think this would be like a fun one to pick up if I'm like, you know, I just need something comforting. It didn't really stick with me. It you know, I wasn't like drawn to it and like felt the need to pick up the next book. So 48 is Hannibal Rising. I listened to the audiobooks of all the Hannibal novels this year because I watched like all 4 or 5 movies a while ago, and I didn't know they were books until I saw someone mention it in the reviews. Hannibal Rising is for sure the worst one, books and movies. I just think it's such a strange storyline, and I think like the whole point of Hannibal Lecter and like why he's so fascinating is like the mystery, the not completely knowing like why he fucking eats people, okay? Like he's so smart, he's so, you know, it's just that unknown. So it's like look behind the curtain, looking like giving an exact known to his trauma. And spoiler alert, he ate his fucking sister as a kid because the Nazis made him. Yeah. 47 would be Hannibal, the next one in the series. This is the book that follows Silence of the Lambs. It takes place, I think, 7 years after Silence of the Lambs, and Clarice Starling like following and trying to find Lecter after he escapes. It's again like just a weird one. I like that it like what it takes place in Italy. I enjoyed the movie. It wasn't terrible, but it's the ending is strange. 46 on the list, our first physical book is Paris for One by Jojo Moyes. This is the same author of Me Before You. This follows this girl who like books a romantic trip for her and her boyfriend to Paris, and then the boyfriend flakes last minute, so she's stuck there by herself, and she's someone who like, you know, doesn't go out much, so like me. So I think she was like very nervous at first, but then she like makes the best of it. I don't know. It's very short, and I think she meets like some French man there and falls in love or something. I don't know. I don't remember. It's poor writing, but it's like a comfort, you know. It's a fun thing to pick up if you're feeling depressed. 45 on the list is Lincoln in the Bordeaux. This was another audiobook. This I think is a really fascinating book, but the audiobook format just did not work for me. I felt like I was like rewinding a million times. Granted, I did like listen to it at work, so I know I was distracted, and yeah, like this was not a good idea. That's why it's like so low on the list for me, is like I just feel like I didn't pick much up from it, but I would definitely like have to revisit it. 44 on the list is The Silent Patient. This is kind of like a psychological thriller, I guess. I know this book is really popular. Last year or 2 years ago, I read The Maidens by the same author, and I read that all in one sitting. I loved it. You know, I didn't see the twists coming or anything, so it was like a really good experience, a reading experience for me. But I listened to the audiobook of this one, and I think it just like didn't hit the same, mostly because I feel like they follow a very similar pattern. So you kind of like, you know, once you've read one, you kind of see the twist coming, so it's not quite as impactful. 43 on the list is Red Dragon. This is like the initial Hannibal Lecter book. It's before Clarice Starling's time, and it follows Will Graham and him coming back into the field. There's this new serial killer terrorizing families across the US, and then he like goes to Lecter for help. I think, honestly, I think the dynamic between Will and Hannibal is so much more interesting, which is why I think I love the show Hannibal so much. I think the story in this one is really interesting. I think Will Graham is a really interesting character in himself, which is why I love the show so much. 42, The Silence of the Lambs. Again, like, great story. I think it's always like interesting when you pair like an inexperienced person with like a very experienced person, and usually, you know, it's like you'll have a cop story and their partners, but in this case it's Hannibal Lecter, super smart, paired with Clarice Starling, also super smart but very inexperienced in the FBI field. So 41 on my list is, ooh, I actually own this one, oh my god, Funny in Farsi by Firuza Duma. This is about like an Iranian family and their experience in the US in the 1970s. I love reading like any books by Iranian authors. I love supporting Iranians, but particularly I think like immigrant stories to the US are very fascinating, very personal to me, obviously. And I think I just love it. I love taking them all in because I feel like every Iranian story is a little bit different. This is pretty low on my list because honestly the comedy was not that comedic to me. It's very much like immigrant catering to Americans about the fact that like, oh yeah, my family's so strange, we're so weird, we're immigrants, we're foreign. I think it had like a lot of like self-deprecating millennial humor in there, which I did not enjoy. I still am glad I read it. Getting to hear about someone else's experience, particularly because their family came before like even the Iranian Revolution, but then also like pre 9/11 Middle Eastern stories are so fascinating to me because everything, I was born in 2001, so I've only known anything after that, so it is really fascinating to like hear of stories and like just how much different things were back then. 40th on our list is Bad Feminist, an audiobook. This has been on my TBR for a very long time, so I am glad I got to it. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but it's basically like kind of like a collection of essays, but it's basically Roxanne's own experiences with feminism. It's really fascinating. Again, like it's called Bad Feminist, so you can expect where it's going. I do like that idea, you know, like this fact that like you don't need to be perfect to be progressive. I think if you're someone who's like just getting into feminism, I think it's a great place to start. I personally like don't think I took much new info out of it. But again, like, glad to cross it off my list. 39 is Nature and Walking. This is 2 essays, one by Emerson, Nature, and then Walking by Henry David Thoreau. I did not enjoy this book as much as I thought. I'm trying to get back into like learning and unplugging, honestly. I'm kind of sick of existing on the internet, which I know is very ironic, filming and posting this, but I've been trying to get back into it. I had a hard time connecting with this though, so I need to revisit it. But 38 is Time is a Mother by Ocean Vuong. Ooh, this stuff is heavy. Poetry, I don't read poetry often, so it was kind of hard to get into, but it's basically a collection of poems and related to his mother who passed away, and oh my goodness, they are so heavy. This was so tough to read, and it's one of those where I'm like, I want to revisit it and I want to get more out of it, but I also don't know if I can afford to do that. So 37 is The Paris Apartment. This is another like murder mystery whodunit. This girl needed a fresh start, so she moved to Paris to crush with her like half brother for a little bit. But once she gets there, her brother is not there, and so it kind of becomes this like mystery trying to figure out like what happened. And I don't know, it's like one of those where this feels like very much like an airport book to me, where you know you can read it there and be entertained, but that's about it. I listened to the audiobook, so I don't know, I feel like I almost like process and interact with the books a little bit differently when I'm listening to it, so I wasn't quite as impressed or even like invested as I could have been. 36 on my list is The Rose and the Dagger, which is the sequel to The Wrath and the Dawn. Listened to both audiobooks this year. I first picked this up just kind of randomly, and then I liked it because the author, I think her husband is Iranian, so she like pulled a lot of inspo from like Persian mythology and stuff. But I don't know, like the actual story, I feel like there like wasn't a lot of character development. I like didn't understand. Basically she like ends up, it's not all about romance, but like she ends up with like the main villain in the first book, I guess, towards the end of it. And first of all, like if you know me, you know I am just so past the bad guy actually turns out to be good trope. Just thinking about this Woven Kingdom again. I'm always thinking about this Woven Kingdom. It's fine. So immediately like I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But I feel like, I don't know, I just like there wasn't a lot of development in my opinion, like to get to where it was. And then yeah, the story in general, I was like, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe this should have been ranked lower. 35 was The Woman in Me. I randomly got really into celebrity memoirs this year. I think those are like the perfect audiobook format, and they're like really easy to listen to and process while I'm like working. This is Britney Spears' memoir, and holy shit, but it's so hard to read about. Oh my goodness. Like, and I think this was the first celebrity memoir where like the author wasn't reading it, but like she says a little blurb in the beginning. She's like, yeah, sorry, I can't read this just because it's like so dramatic, and the things that just like everything she went through, it made me so upset to hear about. 34 is The Wrath and the Dawn, again like the first book in that series. Not much to say there. I feel like I kind of covered it with The Rose and the Dagger. It's just I read them right back to back, so it kind of blended all together. 33 is There by Tommy Orange. But this worked really well as an audiobook because it follows like a bunch of different stories. I want to say like 10 or 11. Let me see if it says. So it follows the story of 12 characters. They are all urban Indians in Oakland, California. So it's not all of it is set in Oakland, but it kind of like centers around Oakland, and it comes together in such a fascinating way. I think you know, it's one of those books that like takes a look at America and its history and it does it in such a powerful way. I mean, oof, like I had goosebumps listening to this stuff. And there's this part where like you see what's coming and you know what's coming, and it's like, oh no. very powerful stuff. I do want to like buy the book too, I think, and like give it another read as an actual book instead of the audiobook. 32 on my list is Inside Out, which is Demi Moore's memoir. I really did not know much about Demi Moore. I think literally the only thing I've seen her in is The Substance. But again, I like randomly got into celebrity memoirs and would just check out anything that was available. So it was cool learning about her. She also had a tough life, which is like, it makes me so sad. 31 on my list is Beautiful World. Where Are You? Dude, I want to like Sally Rooney so bad. So bad. I think like in theory her books sound so good, you know. Anytime I like read the synopsis of one, I'm like, oh yeah, like that is right up my alley. But for some reason they just like don't do it for me, actually. I think, I don't know, they're like really bleak actually, like they're really depressing. Intermezzo at number 30. This was like a nice switch, I think, from her other books though. With the main characters were brothers and their dad just died, so it's like, it's fascinating like listening to both of their perspectives. Her characters are very flawed, which I appreciate. Like they're very human, but I don't know, for some reason they just don't work for me, and it makes me really upset because I really want to like her books. At 29 we have Beartown, another very popular series. I listened to the audiobooks of the first two so far, and I have the third one checked out. Dude, these books are trying to do so much and somehow they manage to. I feel like this is kind of low on my list because I did really enjoy these. I just think like I personally didn't connect to it, you know. They're not ones that I see myself returning to. At 27 I have Days at the Murasaki Bookshop. I love this book. It, like, if we're talking cozy book, it is so good. I think I love Japanese fiction in general, but this book, this and its sequel, I am just obsessed with, you know. I think it reminds me a lot, this Murasaki Bookshop, like I thought a lot about like my college days, and when I was at Loyola, I would go to Armadillo's Pillows like every day. That was like my safe space. So I think these books like very much feel the same, like a safe space, though they're also very heavy and made me cry a couple times. So at 26 I have This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I thought I would like this a lot more than I did. I love pretentious characters in college, blah blah blah. I felt very disconnected to it the whole time. Not that I thought like the characters would be relatable or anything, but I love The Great Gatsby, so I thought I would enjoy this too, and it didn't happen too much. 25, we're like really getting into the physical books now. I don't know if you've like noticed this trend, but I think I definitely interact with and process physical books much differently than I do audiobooks. 25 on my list is Outline by Rachel Cusk. This is another author that like I've seen on Instagram for a very long time, so I was very excited to pick this up. This is like a collection of, I think it's like 10 different conversations. Yeah. It follows like these 10 conversations while she is teaching a course in Athens, Greece for the summer. And you know, I think it follows like a woman who's definitely like very lost, very in the midst of processing a lot. It's so bad that I have like a really bad memory, honestly. I feel like I consume so much but I don't remember it very well, which is one of the things I want to work on in 26. But I think if I remember correctly, like she just got divorced or something. She's going through something family wise and trying to deal with that. So I have Dante's Inferno. I'm gonna need to revisit this like so many times before I truly understand it, but it was a really great read. So much in there, and I felt so dumb reading this, I can't lie. It was terrible. Also, that cover. At 23 we have Modern Madness. This is, I don't read nonfiction like outside of memoirs, I feel like I don't read nonfiction very much, but this is Modern Madness, The Emotional Fallout of Success. It is kind of like the research of this psychologist, starting with like his own patients, and you know, just trends that he was seeing in his patients. But basically it follows like very successful people, career-wise, who are not doing well, like on a personal level. You know, they feel unfulfilled, depressed, wada. It should be no surprise to the people who know me that I picked this up this year. Again, like, I feel like I've been on the search for something, and I think I've been turning towards media, whether that's books or movies, to try and find it. And this was like another case of that, where I was like hoping this book would have the answer for me, because I also feel very lost, and I also want to find true fulfillment, and I'm not there yet. So yeah, I really you know, I was hoping this would like answer some questions for me. It didn't really. It was really fascinating. I think it confirmed a lot of the things that I knew about myself already, but there were certain parts that felt very repetitive too, though. So we have People in My Neighborhood. This is a Japanese translated fiction book. It's kind of like an absurd dark fiction. It's like this neighborhood where a lot of like weird things happen, and it's kind of just, you get a little glimpse into this neighborhood and these like disconnected stories. I have it kind of high on my list because I feel like it is different from anything I've read before. The closest I can like compare it to that I've read, Employees by Olga Ravn. I think similar, like mysterious, absurd vibe. 21 is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This is my first Nabokov novel, but I mean, this was just like the year of classics for me. I feel like I got to so many that I've been wanting to read for such a long time. This did not disappoint. Obviously, very popular novel. Went into it knowing the premise, and I was still sick to my fucking stomach. So well written though, and really honestly all I could think like reading this was like, I was just like angry at what pop culture has kind of turned this novel into, because I feel like it goes against like everything Nabokov is trying to say here. But yeah, like I genuinely felt super sick reading this. And one of those where it's like, I don't know if I can revisit this ever. But 20, I listened to the audiobook of My Body by Emrata. I think this was the first like celebrity memoir that I read this year, which like got me really into them. So well written, but particularly like this because I listened to it at a time when I was like really obsessed with my body in a terrible way. So, you know, I think I kind of like found solace in someone else's stories relating to their body, and yeah, let's not go too much into that. 18 is Stuck, another audiobook, but Stuck: How the Privileged and the Propertied Broke the Engine of American Opportunity. Basically what it says, it talks a lot about like the housing crisis in the US, and the like tagline is, how did America cease to be the land of opportunity? Exactly that. It is what you expect, you know, like racism and yeah, classism and whatnot. But a good read. Pissed me off so bad, as anything about America's history does. 18, I listened to the Killers of the Flower Moon audiobook. I feel like reading this, the movie follows the book so well, but yeah, just, you know, being face to face with this story again, it's so fucking depressing. And again, like anger really is just all I can muster up anytime I come face to face with like anything white Americans have done. Portrait of a Lady. This is a huge book. This was one of the first books I read this year, so in my mind I think it will forever be associated with winter. But this was like a really good read too. I think like the first half and the second half are so different. I like didn't read the synopsis going into this. I rarely do for books. What started out as like, you know, giving Jane Austen vibes almost, turned into like a psychological nightmare to me. But yeah, very well written, very depressing. Just seems to be a theme in the books I like. 16 is Family and Friends by Anita Brookner. This is the first Brookner I have read. I didn't know much about her before this, but this follows a like rich European family in London, and kind of like just follows their lives as they branch out, and all follow their different paths. But it's like, it feels like a very simple novel, but again, like really well written. The Optimist's Daughter by Eudora Welty. This is a story about grief. Laurel comes back to like her hometown after her father passes away, and I mean, yeah, it's like the immediate aftermath of his death and her being back in her hometown for the first time in forever. So it is like, you know, a dive into those emotions and kind of just like being face to face with your past and all the things that come up in those moments, but so well written. 14 on my list is the very first book I read this year, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Very much up my alley. I love like a detective novel. I devoured this in like 2 days. I think it worked really well because I read it in winter too. Like, it was a big winter storm had happened when I was reading this, so it like set the mood and everything. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. You just like want to find out what happens. You can't stop reading. Very fascinating look into Swedish society too, because that's like not an area I would normally have much interest in, but I really want to read the rest of these books. White Nights by Dostoevsky. I think this is a novel that many people are very familiar with. It's actually my first Dostoevsky that I've like actually finished. I started both The Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment. I just have not been able to finish either. I like keep picking them up, putting them back down, because you really need to be committed when you're reading Dostoevsky. So I feel like this is a good, like, you know, if you want to say you've read Dostoevsky, great place to start, right? Again, so depressing. I relate a lot to the main character. Anyways. I'm like getting sad thinking about this again. No, I can't. At 12 we have Together Tea, another Iranian author, story about the Iranian immigrant experience. This is about Mina, who is like around like 25. Her mother keeps trying to set her up with other Iranian American men, and she's sick of it, so she randomly like decides she wants to go back to Iran, and she takes the trip with her mom. It's her first time ever being in Iran, I think, or like being back. She might have like moved when she was like super young, so she doesn't really remember it. Going back with her mom, they kind of begin to like connect better and have a better relationship, and to me it was really fascinating. Again, love Iranian stories, but I feel like I got a look into Iran in a way that I haven't before. I related a lot to Mina's character. I think like her experience in being an immigrant was very similar to how I feel. So yeah, really love this one. 11, I have More Days at the Morisaki bookshop. I accidentally read this before I read the first one, so I think it was really special to me. Now we're getting into the top 10. It was really hard to like order these, so I don't know how accurate it is honestly, but these are all very much like top 10 books. And we have Animal Stories by Kate Zambrino. This is part of the Undelivered Lecture series from Transit Books, where they feature like book-length essays. And this is so fascinating. It starts out with a look at the zoo. It's basically like Kate Zambrino looks a lot at like animals and zoos, and honestly kind of like the divide and connection between animals and humans. The first chapter was so fascinating to me. It's called Monkey House. A lot of quotes from this burger essay. Kate draws these parallels from like their visit and burgers. Really fascinating, so well written. I can't wait to check out more of Kate Zambrino's works, because I don't know how to put it into words, but this is written in a way I've never read anything else written before. So Story of a New Name by Elena Ferrante. If you know me, you know My Brilliant Friend is a fascinating book. It's amazing, brilliantly written. I love Elena Ferrante's writing, and I was finally able to get to the second one. This book still follows Lila and Elena, except now they are young adults, so you know, a bit more heavy stuff. I feel like I can't properly speak on this series until like I've read all 4 of them, because I feel like I've even seen like Elena Ferrante say it's like one story just spread out across 4 books, because I mean otherwise it would be like 2,000 pages long. I think I feel like I can't say much yet, but yeah, still really good stuff. I love Elena Ferrante's writing. It's so direct but so poetic at the same time. Number 8, we have The Vanishing Half. I read this recently, and this was another book. I think I read it in like one day. So good. I bought this like 4 years ago in Chicago, and I just haven't had a chance to get to it. But I'm so glad I read it when I did. Best thing I can say is if you like the movie The Prestige, I think you would like this book. And I'm gonna leave it there. I feel like I don't want to talk too much about like what happens in here, because I think going into it blind is very important. This book follows like 4 different female characters, all family members connected in one way or another, but so fascinating. All of their voices are so distinct, so well written, and equally fascinating. Like, I could not get enough. Everyone needs to read it. It's so good. I have The Beast, The Legend, Anna Karenina. I had so much fun reading this. As far as like Russian literature goes, I know this is overwhelming, this is daunting, but I honestly would recommend this as a place to start. It has short chapters. I feel like it's easily digestible, you know, it's not tough to comprehend, and the story is fascinating. So fucking good. Existentialism is a Humanism by Jean-Paul Sartre. This, I think, is honestly like my first philosophy book outside of college. I've always been drawn to existentialism. I feel like my personal philosophy is like very closely tied into it without like ever even like having heard of existentialism before. I've always wanted to get more and more into philosophy. It's a little bit scary because I've heard people say like the way I got not depressed is by stopping reading philosophy. And I haven't started and I am depressed, so I don't know if I want to make that commitment yet. But No Name in the Street by James Baldwin. It's my first James Baldwin. I know Giovanni's Room is like, I think, the most popular, but I'm so glad I picked this up, and I'm so glad I read it when I read it. I read it when I was in Edon this summer. It just so well written. I can't wait to check out more of Baldwin's work. It is amazing, you know, just commentary on social and political circumstances in the US. And it's kind of crazy how so much of this still rings true. At number 4, we have Murder by Kaveh Akbar, another Iranian novelist. Can you believe it? Kaveh Akbar is actually a poet, and this was his debut novel. This book is trying to do so much. Like, that's the best way I can say it. Like, it's trying to do so much, and it delivers. It delivers. I'm like remembering everything about it, and it's like coming back and hitting me. And it's still just as emotional. It's so well written. Cyrus, who is an ex-addict, alcoholic, and he's just dealing with a lot. Both his parents are dead. He's an orphan. He kind of feels lost in the world. He's a creative, a writer. He wants to do something meaningful with his life. He's suicidal, and he finds this artist who speaks to him, who seems like they might have a way of connecting him with his past. Again, like, insane. The twist at the end, I know a lot of people are like, it doesn't make sense, but to me it like gut fucking punch. Like, I think so good. Just read it. Just read it. Just read it. The Catcher in the Rye. I did not take honors English in high school until my junior year, so I never read this in high school. We didn't do that. And this was one of those books. It was funny because like I've always heard this is a red flag book, so I was like going into it, I was like, oh gosh, like what's it gonna be? And I was obsessed. I don't fully understand why it's considered a red flag book, but that might be my red flag. I am always going to be drawn to characters who are lost and, yeah, just lost in the world, lost in themselves, and, you know, fueled by a lot of anger and sadness. So of course this spoke to me. Highly recommend. Honestly, another book where I feel like you can read it in one sitting. A perfect like wintertime novel because it takes place over like winter break, I think, Christmas time. So we have 1984 by George Orwell, another novel where I did not read it when everyone else did in like high school, but again, I'm glad it's this one. Again, I like obviously knew going into it what 1984 is about, Big Brother, all that, but it was still crazy to read this and just have the wind knocked out of me. You know, it's crazy how much of this feels like it rings true today. And I'm sorry, but I just don't understand how you can read something like this and then still actively take part and use AI. It's fucking disgusting to me. I mean, like, this isn't some dystopian fiction novel. This is like exactly where we're headed, and I wish people would like be a little less chill about that. This one part where, oh gosh, I'm not gonna be able to find it. This they can make you say anything, but they can't make you believe it. They can't get inside you. And that part, just like that line really stuck out to me. It's fascinating because in the end that kind of seems to not be true. It's a very bleak book, but yeah, I think the end can be interpreted in a couple different ways, and I would love to sit down with others who have read this and kind of talk through it. So important. If you haven't read it, I mean, you have to, you know, as far as like basically like in this novel, like the current government, the controlling body, controls everything you do and say and think is pretty much monitored, and they are actively changing history to best fit their needs in this. So it's stuff like that where like I don't know how you can read this and then still actively use AI and like take, you know, make fake videos and all of that, you know. It's just, I am so fucking anti-AI. I can't even, I hate it so much. The #1 best book I read this year, Reading Lolita in Tehran. This was just like another book where like it came to me right time, right place, all of that. I read it while I was in Iran, so it was amazing to like be able to walk the same streets as are mentioned in this, and see like how similar and how different society is from the time in this book. Honestly, it opened like this insatiable hunger for reading to me, which was great. I feel like I haven't been able to stop consuming books since I read this, which is everything to me. I love this book. I wish everyone would read it. Powerful memoir, loved it. It honestly got me back into reading in a way I didn't think was possible. I just like cannot stop now. So my absolute favorite. And again, a different look into Iran and being Iranian than what I personally see. So I'm always going to be grateful for those books because I feel like it's so strange being from a country, a specific ethnicity, and still being so disconnected to it. So I love like any way that I can experience it. Those are all the books that I read this year. Honestly, a pretty good reading year, you know. The lows were lows, but the highs were really fucking high. And then these are the books that I'm currently reading: Female Fantasy, another Iranian author, and then Jane Eyre. I don't know if I'll finish both of them by the end of the year, but yeah, that's it. Comment how many books you've read down below, your favorite, your least favorite, and then if you've read any of these and your opinions on them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.